Hello everyone, how's it going? This is going to be the weekly recap from the 28th to the first day of April, and I had a total of 9 trades. 6 of them were green trades, which makes it a 66% winning percentage rate. And these 3 trades right here with the NA, these are trades that I didn't really trade a large size. I traded something very small just to see what the setup was going to do, if it was going to work out or not, and I want to be in it, just not with a lot of money because I want to get the experience. I don't include these in my stats, and I've been really happy since I've been doing this because sometimes there is a setup that I want to take, but I don't really necessarily want to play my dollar risk level. So now that I've done this, I can trade very small positions and not include it in my stats and try to continue to develop and gain more experience. And I'm happy overall. I've said I don't like this right here. Only a third of my trades that was on regular size. I didn't actually trade my dollar position size. Not my dollar position size, but I didn't trade the amount of shares that I was supposed to trade, and I was undersized. That has been something that I have been struggling with and something I need to continue to work on. It's been the lesson or the main theme with the last 3 weeks, and it's something I need to keep getting better at. But besides that, I did have an average dollar gain of $4, and my average dollar loss was a lot less. This is great. I would like to add 2 or 3 zeros here. If I can have that same ratio, that would be perfect. My average percent gain, I'd like to see it a bit better, but it was close to 2%. Much better than my average percent loss, and my average dollar position size on a winning trade was much larger than on a losing trade, which is good. These were my 3 losing trades that went in the stats. These were all listed stocks, and I feel like I've been doing a lot better trading listed stocks. I'm going to stick to the $5 risk level probably, but at some point I would like to be interested in trading a $10 risk level with listed stocks and maybe a $15 risk level on OTC setups. Right now it's $10 with OTC setups, and if it's a morning panic bounce play, I trade a position in that. If it doesn't work out, I lose anywhere from $10 to $30, and I haven't traded anything over 20 in a very long time, and I like to do that as long as there's a good setup that makes it worth it. It shows right here that I've been in a trade that works a lot less than a trade that doesn't work. Maybe this isn't very important anymore, especially if I just cut the trade when it doesn't work out. But it's nice to see that if maybe the setups that I hold for a really long time don't work out, perhaps I might be more interested in getting out of those setups before I have to cut them. Who knows? That's something I need to keep looking at. I made $11.57 on the week, which is fine. And the good thing about it is that I made this amount of money, but I only traded $951 of trading volume. So all of these trades right here equals $951. And I think that's a okay percent difference. I like to see this at least 2%, but that is where it is right now, and it's definitely a step in the right direction. Let's go ahead and go over all of the setups one by one, and I had to make an adjustment. RMSL is the first trade there. It's glitched. I don't know why it doesn't look right on the charts, but it is messed up, so I'm going to have to go to a screenshot to go over this first trade right here. But the first trade is RMSL on the 28th, and this is a morning panic bounce play gap down. Let's just go ahead and go over it from my screenshot since it's kind of broken on TD Immediate Trade. Let me bring it right here. And for this trade, I was in at 9:32 a.m. at 11:07. So 9:32 a.m. was right here, and I was in at 11:07. And why did I get in? This was a morning panic bounce play. If you look right here, you can see when it closed right here, and then it opened much lower, and it shows the same thing here on the 5-minute chart. I got in right here, and why? Because it looked like it was going to turn around. I saw a level 2 turnaround, and I think of this one in particular, I saw a million share bidder, I believe, show up at the bid. I know it was a level 2 turnaround, but again, this is something that opens down a lot from the previous day. It's downtrending, and then you wait for like a turnaround, and then I saw the turnaround, or at least what I thought was a turnaround. I got in. Worst case scenario, if it were to have come back and then break the low right here, I would either be out at the low or maybe right afterwards if I didn't get out. And I did do a sell, as you can see right there. I got out the next minute, 9:33 at 124. Right here I got out. And why did I get out? Probably because it got past VWAP, which is always my goal. And there was a point where I could have traded this, but I didn't do it because there was a lot of sellers at the ask. But it did make a follow-up move, and it went even higher. But I wish the chart was working, but it's kind of glitched. It doesn't work, so I'm not able to show it. But that was a pretty good trade. I made $7, 6%, and I was, according to my dollar risk level, close to that $10 risk level. It wasn't the best looking trade because it wasn't like a very nice daily chart. It was just kind of random, as you can see right here, but that was the case with that one. Let's look at the next setup, the next trade, which is MULN. MULN for the 29th. This was a reversal long, so maybe something that is downtrending, 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 and then it looks like it's trying to stop, consolidate, and then turn around, and I get in that potential setup. Let's look at MULN for the 29th. This has been a popular stock recently, and this was the 29th at its highs. Just a crazy turnaround from the 60 cents all the way to $4, and I'm trading it right here on the 29th, thinking that it might turn around. Let's look at the 29th. This is the 29th. Alright, I was in at 951, 234. Let me zoom in a little more. I was in at 930. What was it? 951, 234. Right here, 951, 234. I was in right here, so I saw the drop from the 250s as low as the $2.30 level, and then I got in right here thinking that it was going to turn around, maybe because it made this low right here. It uptrended a little, and I thought it was going to hold this level, this base right here, and then maybe in theory it can continue the uptrend and get to VWAP or maybe even get above it. It did turn around eventually, but not when I was in it right here, and I got out the next minute at 2:33, so 952. 952 is right here, 2:33. This big red candle, I got out right here because I thought it was going to hold this 934 level and it was going to continue to turn around. It didn't. It broke it, and I got out right when it broke it. I cut losses quickly. It did get lower to the 220s, but I did a good job cutting the trade right here when it didn't work. It did turn around eventually, but not when I was in it. I think this was a bit too eager. I was too early because I don't see something like this where it downtrends and then it kind of consolidates for a little bit. You know, it immediately made this bottom and it uptrend. I got in right here. Maybe I should have been more patient with this one, but that was a trade that I took there, and I lost a very small amount, but I did trade close to my dollar risk level, which is fine. Let's look at the next trade, which is AMC. And just a note, I tend to do a lot worse on my listed stock trades compared to OTCs, and these are both red trades. But let's look at AMC for an inverse head and shoulders on the 29th. Right here is a 29th for AMC. Very crazy day. Very, very crazy. Let's look at the 29th. That's the 30th. 29th is right here. We'll zoom in the entire day first. I was in at 10:30, and that was at 28.17. We'll round it up to 28.17. Let's try to zoom in a little more. 10:38, right? 10:30 at 28. Right here, 10:30, 28, this level right here. Why was I in this? You can see right here, shoulder potentially ahead. And I thought I was going to do it right here, the shoulder, inverse head and shoulder, shoulder, head, shoulder. You know, ideally it goes to VWAP or uptrends past VWAP. And as you can see, it did it, but not when I was in it, right here at 10:30, which is unfortunate. But hey, at least the setup did play out. It went from the 27 level up to 30, which was about a 10% move. It didn't work out when I was in it right here. Maybe I was a bit too eager to get in the setup. And yeah, let's just take a look at it. I was in at that level at 1030, and I got out 1033 at 2805. So 1033, again, very similar to the other trade. I get out at the big red candle that breaks my risk level, and I got out at 2805. Right around here, I believe, is when I got out when I cut the trade. And that was the case with that. It just didn't work out when I got in, but it did make the inverse head and shoulders. Again, shoulder, head, and then the shoulder here. Let's see what would have happened if I got in at 2805 for the same price that I got out, and I sold at 30. Let's just see what that would have been. Nice. I would have been 7%. I would have made almost $6. It would have really worked out. And it looks like, well, I guess the stats will change. But it seems like I still wasn't trading my dollar risk level here. In theory, to have a $5 risk level, maybe I should have traded 6 shares. And then that would have made that even more profitable. Almost a double. I mean, yeah, pretty much a double since I doubled my shares. But it's not much in terms of dollar, if you ask me. But okay, yeah, that one did not work out. That's fine. Not when I was in it, but the setup did play out eventually. Let's look at IMPP for the 30th, and this is a high day breakout setup. So let's look at IMPP. Ever since this stock came out, I've been trying to find a way to make an IMPP joke because the way it's called, but I just haven't really been able to find a really nice way to make that joke. Let's look at my entry. I was in at 11:52 a.m. 176. First, let's get to the 30th, which is right here. What time was it? 11:52, 176. Right here, 11:52. So yeah, the idea was that I thought I was gonna do something around this level right here. I got in 11:52 at 176. I thought it was going to potentially, because of the time period being around 11, the volume picking up, and you know, the highs are around right here at this 177 level, or you can say give or take the 176 level. It looks like it was going to potentially break the day high and be something really nice, and that is totally something that can happen with a stock like this one that has had a very nice run up from the 55-cent level to almost $10, and then it comes back, and sometimes they like to downtrend and then consolidate and then try again. Maybe not get as high, but still make a nice move towards the upside. And it just hasn't done it. But that was my attempt right here. It didn't work out. And I got out 11:55 at 176, almost 176 flat. My entry was at 176 and a half. And yeah, I got out right here at this candle, big red candle. And I just did a really good job selling when it broke the level. And why did I get out of this trade in particular? What was my dollar risk level? I had a trend line in place, and let me see if I can try to draw it, but essentially I was in for this potential higher day breakout, and the idea was that maybe it can continue to uptrend, and then if it breaks it, I'm going to get out. I'm not extremely sure how I had it back then, but you can see where it kind of broke the trend line right here that it was following, and I got out of the trade for that reason. And yeah, it didn't work out. The setup did not work out, but it was a good attempt, and not all setups are going to work out. Because if you take a look, it did downtrend. This was the trade right here. It got lower. It didn't work out, but again, it was a good attempt. This was a high day breakout setup that didn't play out. Let's look at MULN. This is a bull flag. I don't like the way I sell this one. Jeez, I remember this trade now. Let's look at MULN for the 30th. This was a really bad sell. The 30th is right here. Very big green day. Kind of like the thing with IMPP where it uptrends and then it downtrends, consolidates, and then it tries to make a comeback. But not so much here because I would have liked it if it dropped more. But this was a nice big green day. Let's look at the 30th. Yeah, you can see the crazy move. I got in at 1:18 p.m. at 274 and a half. which was right here. I got in right here. Let me zoom in a bit more, but not too much, I guess. Right here, 118. Right, actually no, right here. Why did I get in this trade? Because this is a bull flag. If you just search on Google Images for a bull flag, this is what it looks like. It has like the big spike, and then it makes like a flag, and it's holding a certain level. And I got in at this level right here. And I believe I got in right at the very tippy top of the wick because it looked like it was going to do it right then and there. And in this trade in particular, I was going to get out if it were to have broken this wick right here. That would have been my sign to get out of the trade. And as you can see, it did uptrend and it did work out. This was a speculative trade. I only traded a very tiny share amount, just 5 shares. And I got out at 120. Look at my sell. $2.75. Just a penny more for my entry is when I got out at 120. Right here. And the reason why I got out, because I was a chicken, it kind of uptrended a little bit, and then it came back, and I sold, and then it came back, and then it uptrended. When it comes to a setup like this, what I should have done, and I went over it on the day that I traded it, is use a trend line, because something like this is very emotional, very crazy, the run up and everything, and I need to just get the, idea to try to judge a setup that is not rational and try to, in that case, be better with my selling. And something really cool, when I drew a trend line on the video like this, it followed it perfectly. Best case scenario, I should have been in the setup, and I should have gotten out right here when it broke the uptrending trend line. And sure, it got higher later, but this would have been a very safe sell for me. Let's just see what it would have been if I sold at 286, which was the bottom of that candle. That would have been a very nice percent gain, almost 5%. And yeah, sure, I would have made something off of this, but this was a speculative trade. I only traded a small position, so I wouldn't have made much. But yeah, this is something I need to consider doing and get better at. Just, try to judge when you have to use a trend line, and when maybe you can time and go by your feeling when to sell based off of the price action, the level 2 and the price, and everything like that. But I have less experience with listed stocks compared to OTC, so yeah, this was a very emotional trade, and that is crazy, and I tried my best. It did work out, just didn't have the best sell. Even if it wouldn't have worked out, I would have then cut it right here when the level broke. I should have probably have been better with this one, and that's why I rated myself as a no, as in do I feel like I traded the setup well. I hope in the future, if I can get a setup similar to this one, I can do much better. Be a lot more patient with it overall. Let's look at the next trade, which is inverse head and shoulders, the head section. So I'll explain that. Let's look at AMC for the 31st. And let me remove this trend line while I still can. '31st is right here. It looks like it's downtrending, maybe a reversal setup. Let's take a look at AMC. Right about here, and I was in at 957.23. Let's just say 23.76. I'm going to zoom in a bit more. And again, that was 957.23.76 right here. I got in right here, and why? Very simple. Inverse head and shoulders, shoulder, head. Now this one didn't work out. It didn't make the shoulder, and it didn't do it. It made a lower low, but the idea is that it's a little more speculative because you're trading what could be the head, but it doesn't have to play out. But here's the shoulder. I got in right here thinking, okay, this might be the head. It uptrends. Ideally, it gets to VWAP like it did right here. And, I can be able to sell into that uptrend. As soon as that uptrend looks like it's going to no longer continue the uptrend and turn around. And, yeah, this was it. It didn't have to work out. I would have cut it if it were to have broken the wick right here. And, again, I got in at this level right here at this, what was it specifically? Again, that was that 23.76 level. right here, 23.76, and I got out the next minute at 23.93. Right here, 23.93 is when I got out right here. Now this was an issue. I didn't do this part right, but in theory what I wanted to do to have more patience, I had a trend line from this wick to the corner of the first green candle that was uptrending, and then let me zoom in a little more. Maybe not that much, but the idea with this setup is that I got in right here at that 9:57 minute, and the idea is that I was in right here at 23.76, and I was going to, just to have more patience, sell half of my position at this 23.93 level, and then hold on to the other half so that if it breaks the trend line, right, and it downtrends and it breaks my entry, it breaks my risk level, like this candle kind of did, it got all the way to my risk level, then I would at least had the ability to have sold half while it was still uptrending. And then if it continues to uptrend and moves much higher, sure, that would stink that I sold halfway back here, but at least it gave me the patience to hold on because I at least sold half my position for a profit, and that will help it greatly in terms of me just holding on to the setup, knowing that I don't have all my shares, you know, at once, and then what if it downtrends a lot and I'm out and I lost money or something like that. I wanted to sell just half of my position, but unfortunately I sold everything here. In theory, if I traded it perfectly, you know, this thing is uptrending, I'm using this trend line, I sell half of my position here, and then when it breaks the trend line right here, which, I mean, maybe I would have sold for a loss, right? But I would have followed my plan much better, and I would have been much happier with that. It didn't really play out. I mean, it did uptrend, but, you know, I didn't do it the way I wanted. Eventually, this ended up being the shoulder head, and then the shoulder right here, and then it went from the 23.57 level to VWAP at 24.23. But again, it didn't have to work out, but I wish I traded it better, even if it meant I would have lost money because I would have sold the other half maybe much lower than my entry and my first sell, but that would have been fine, and that's why I put no, I believe. Oh no, I put okay. I traded it okay, but yeah, I could have done much better with this setup, and I did not stick to my dollar risk level either. Maybe 15 shares would have been more like it. Yeah, definitely a lot of room for improvement. I need to get better at trading the amount of shares I'm supposed to, because if I trade a setup and it works, but I didn't have my full size, I didn't buy as much shares as I should have, I didn't make that much, and then maybe what if I take a setup, a trade, and it doesn't work out, and I'm sized incorrectly, I have the right amount of shares, but now I'm red because, you know, I lost more on the setup, I traded more money. So I have to keep getting better at that, and that's something I hope I can continue to do better. And I'm just going to maybe just have a whole bunch of losing trades, you know, or not really losing trades, but, you know, frustration until it gets to the point that I push myself to really do it. Let's look at ISPC for the 31st, and this was an inverse head and shoulders. Let's look at ISPC for the 31st. I believe I traded this twice, the same setup. Right here is the 31st. Some volume is picking up. It is uptrending. Not really the best chart, but I did notice that it could try to do a turnaround. Let's highlight ISPC, which had a massive run up later in the day. But to make it a little clearer, let me just zoom into the part that I traded. But yeah, it was pretty cool that this one continued the uptrend later throughout the day. Let's look at my entry. I was in at 1059, 417. And was that perfectly 417? Yeah, that was. 1059 was right here. 417. Why did I get in? Inverse head and shoulders. Shoulder, head, and then I got in shoulder. It did play out. It wasn't very nice. It did uptrend right here. It got to the neckline. This is what you call the neckline. But it didn't get much higher. It did downtrend and then turn around and go all the way to VWAP, which would have been the goal for me, but it did do something. It just wasn't that nice. Speculative position, just 5 shares. I'm playing with a $21 bill here, and I got out 11.14, and that was at 420. 11.14 was when I got out. right here. And I got out at 420 because it started the uptrend and I drew a trend line, an uptrending trend line, and when it broke it, I got out of it. Let's do all the trend line very quickly. I'm going to guess it was off of the first uptrending candle to the corner of the second. And you can see it clearly stopped working. If I extend it to the left, it almost follows this point as well. Just to confirm, yeah, 11:14 is when I got out. I guess a bit later. Maybe I gave myself some space, or maybe I drew the line from this candle to this one right here. Yeah, that makes more sense actually. That's when I got out of the trade. 11:14, right when it pierced through. So this was an example where I actually traded the way I was supposed to in terms of selling. I got out when the trend line broke, and that's why I got out at 420. It did downtrend, but this is going to be something that's going to allow me to sell for a lot better. Instead of trying to judge the top, or trying to judge the turnaround, which I can do a lot of times, it also helps me to use a trend line because it kind of gets that emotion out of it, and I just sell as soon as it breaks that, and that's it. Even if it continues an uptrend later, I have a nice, safe, and profitable sell. Pretty good setup right here. Let's look at DPLS. I traded this one perfectly, except that I didn't have the right amount of shares. I traded half of what I was supposed to trade. As you can see, $5.50 was my dollar risk level ultimately, but if I had 10,000 shares, that would have been ideal, and I would have made a bunch more. Let's look at DPLS for the first day of April. Right here. Let's look at it. It doesn't look that nice, honestly, but it was clearly a morning panic bounce play. Alright. Was it? Oh no, I didn't trade the morning panic bounce play. That's right. I didn't trade this morning panic bounce play. The downtrend from this 57 level to 51. It did turn around and bounce to 53. But I didn't like the way it did it here. But maybe I will consider trading something like this in the future, because this one just followed the play. And as soon as it broke the downtrending trend line, as you can see, I love my trend lines, right? As soon as it broke this downtrending trend line, it started to reverse. It doesn't have to, of course, but it did it right here, and I could have been in maybe at 52.1, and then a nice sell above VWAP into the 53s. That wouldn't have been so bad. I've seen this setup play out more often than not, and yeah, that was the case there. I traded a double bottom, so in theory, it had a downtrend, the bottom, it bounces, and then it comes back near the same level as it was previously in the morning. And the idea is to sell into VWAP very similarly, or using a trend line. I was in at 951, 521. Right here, 521, 951. And why did I get in? I got in because at first I wanted to be a part of this trade, and I wanted to be long here, but there was a person with 1 million, I think 1.2 million shares at the ask, a big seller at the ask, and I wasn't going to jump in this trade knowing that there's a big shark at the ask with a lot of size. I might not let the setup play out, but when somebody, as you can see right here, bought the shares, that's when I immediately saw this was a potential for a turnaround, and that's why I got in at this 52.1 level, and it did uptrend. It did get to VWAP, and I got out the next minute at 528. So 528, I got out right here. That was a pretty good sell. It was above VWAP. It was my goal. And if I were to have drawn a trend line, let's just see what that would have been like. Maybe from this candle right here to the first uptrending candle. Still would have been a sell in the 528s level. So that's pretty interesting to look at. And yeah, that was a sell there at 528. At 9:52 the next minute, I made $3.50, but I should have had 10,000 shares according to my $10 risk level. I screwed that up. I made a video a while ago on how do I calculate how many shares do I trade based off of the setup and where I'm risking. I'll link it in this video, and yeah, I just didn't follow that, and that's unfortunate, but That was the case with that one. And the last trade with ISPC was another speculative trade. But in theory, I would have liked to have traded an actual $5 risk level here, but I didn't because I was moving money around for tax reasons. I'm going to have to pay the IRS a whole bunch of money because I'm self-employed and I have a business, but I just didn't have enough cash in the cash account to trade this with Schwab. But this was another inverse head and shoulders with ISPC. Let's take a look at it. All right, first is going to be right here, second day after the breakout over this 450 level. Not a very convincing candle, but let's take a look at the first day of April. I was in at 1040, 470, let's just say 474 at 1040. Let's zoom in a bit more. I was in right here, 1040. Right here at 474. Why did I get in? Again, inverse head and shoulders. Shoulder, head, shoulder. And I'm in at 1040 right here. Right at the 474 level. And as you can see, it did uptrend. But it didn't get all the way to VWAP, which would have been ideal. But it totally uptrended. And I really like this setup. I'm really happy with the way I traded it, because I used a trend line. And I just held on to my trade until it broke it. I did sell most of my position, as you can see here, when it looks like it was about to break it for the first time, but I sold in 2 pieces, and this was a really good trade. I'm really happy with the way I traded it. Let's go ahead and draw the trend line, since I did use that accordingly in this setup. If I have to guess, it's going to be from maybe the wick here to the one right here, the corner of this candle. I'm not extremely sure if that was the case. That might have been the case here, maybe. From this candle to that candle. I'm not extremely sure. I don't use this platform. I use E-Trade, and I like the way E-Trade looks more than Thinkorswim, but I like using Thinkorswim because you can zoom in the charts and look at previous time periods very easily, and you can't really do that with E-Trade. I did find out recently you can actually zoom in the E-Trade Pro charts, but it's like all glitchy and messed up, but it does work, but it's not as nice as TD Immediate Trade. And I did sell. I had 5 shares. I sold 4 of my 5 shares right here when it looks like it was going to break it. But then I just held on to the other share until it broke it officially. And that was when I finally sold right here at 483. And this was a really good trade. I had 2 sells. One was with 4 shares and the other one was with 5 shares in theory. I would have liked it if I traded maybe, I don't know, 2,000 shares. That would have been very cool if I can be the kind of guy to do something like that. Having a $200 risk level. That's definitely something I want to keep working forward to. And that wasn't even with the best sell. I guess best case would have been 483. And that would have been a lot more profitable. But yeah, that's about it. I want to size up. I want to trade more money as long as the setup is good and it's worth it. And I need to make sure I do trade this right amount of shares accordingly to my dollar risk level, and keep getting more patient on my selling. But that's really about it. I like the stats overall, but definitely I need to work on my selling, and I need to make sure I have the right amount of shares. That's all I have for this weekly recap right here.